On your screen is my new website that I fully vibe coded in days. That's right, I've moved everything from Webflow to a fully AI coded site. This is not a demo, it is my actual business built with Claude Code and Codex, and it's live right now on nocode.mba. You're probably wondering, why would you want to switch off of Webflow? Is it really worth the effort? What are the pros and cons? I'm going to get into all of that later in the video. I'm going to talk about every step along the way, including how to deploy the website, the tools that I recommend, how much this costs, and whether I would do this again. And by the end, you're going to know how to build your own AI-coded website and migrate off tools like Webflow if that's what you want to do. Now, before we get into all of that, you need to know that AI is changing so quickly, and that's why you need to sign up for our daily 2-minute AI brief delivered straight to your inbox. Click the link below to sign up for free. So question 1 is, why do this at all? What was wrong with my Webflow website? I've used Webflow for years, and I do think it's a great product, but the challenge for me was how slow it was for me to build new pages, for me to redesign the website, for me to spin up new pages. For example, I wanted to create this consulting page. There's a lot that I wanted to build. I wanted to update the design. I wanted to update the copy, and it was just clunky with Webflow. It took a lot longer than I would want to. And a while ago, I hired a designer to help with our Webflow site, but I'm not a designer myself. So if I'm building it on my own, using AI just makes the design look a lot cleaner. So the number one reason I did it is I wanted full control over the site. I wanted to be able to prompt and get results quickly. One of the hidden benefits that I saw switching from Webflow to my own custom site, and I'm going to talk about the full coding stack and coding framework that you want to use to build this, is just how much faster the site is. Like, going to different pages is just about instant, and it was not like this at all on Webflow. It took so much longer for each page to load. So just the performance alone has been a massive benefit that I actually didn't expect when I first started. And here on Google speed test, we can see the performance, accessibility, best practices, and SEO are all really, really high. So with Webflow, it was not this high. And the other thing I'm going to get into, which you're probably curious about, is how do you maintain SEO when you're switching from Webflow to your own custom coded site? I did a lot of research into this, so I'm going to talk about the exact steps you want to take to make sure that your articles are still going to rank on Google after you switch things over. Having said all that, let's jump into the actual step-by-step instructions of what you need to do if you're switching from Webflow to your custom coded site. So the first thing that you want to do is open up Codex, and you're going to want to create a new project inside of Codex, so a new folder that you can be working in. Now, when you're switching over from Webflow, you likely have a CMS page. So being able to make sure we migrate our CMS into whatever we're doing next. So in my case, I used Sanity. So with Sanity, you can migrate your CMS on Webflow to the CMS on Sanity. It looks a little bit complicated from the site, but AI connects to both APIs to set all of this up. But all of the content for NoCode MBA is now hosted on Sanity. But in order to do that, first we need to export all the pages out of our Webflow site, so the NoCode MBA Webflow site. The reason for that is really important. So first of all, we want to make sure that we're copying everything over so we're not losing any content. And from an SEO perspective, we want to make sure of a few things. First, we want to make sure that we are not losing pages that are being served on Google search. So what that means is specific URLs. So what I mean by that is, like, up here on the top, the slug, this is called the slug of the URL. So this needs to match perfectly when we're rebuilding our site. This is being served from Sanity. So this content is in the Sanity CMS, but we need to make sure that we are exporting all of the pages, including the slugs, including the headings, the metadata, everything, so that we can rebuild it perfectly when we're using AI to code it. So we can't lose any of that. If any of the slugs change, if any of the page URLs change, the SEO is going to break and nothing is going to work correctly when we switch things over. So the first thing that I did was I built a crawler. So there is a tool called Screaming Frog, which you can download. And it's basically a way to get SEO data from your site, but the free version was limited. So I just asked Codex to basically build a scraper to scrape my own site for the information that we need, which was internal URLs, titles, meta descriptions, H1s, and canonicals. We pulled out the images. So these are the core things that you need. It's literally as simple as asking Codex to build a crawler that is going to get this specific information from your site. After that, we connected our Webflow CMS to Codex. I did this by adding the API key, read access API key, to the Webflow CMS. Do this under the apps and integrations page in Webflow. Go down and you can then set up API access. So generate an API token, ask Codex to create a .env file so that we can add the Webflow CMS env file to Codex so that it can read everything from the CMS. This is just going to be another way to spot check everything that we created. By the way, when we actually do scrape this data, Codex is going to put that into a folder. The AI agent in Codex can access that anytime it wants. Okay, so this might seem a little bit complicated, but we do need to do these steps before getting started in order to set ourselves up for success. This is really important. If you skip this step, you are going to be in a lot of trouble later on rebuilding things. So doing all of this is just really helpful as you're getting started. Then what we did was added the API key as well for Sanity. So Sanity is the new CMS that our data is going to be stored in. So create a Sanity account and also add that API here. What that's going to do is allow us to have the agent create the Sanity schemas for the major Webflow collections. And if you might have Webflow collections, which are basically tables in a database that you don't need anymore, you can tell the agent not to add them. But for example, we can see we have article, course, learning track, lesson, tool, category, instructor, interview, podcast, review, comparison. So these are the important schema files we need to migrate over. So then just ask Codex to build a migration pipeline, moved 1,621 CMS documents across 15 collections into Sanity. So at this point, we are in pretty good shape. And I'm going to show you what it looks like in Sanity, actually. We can see our CMS data is now living inside of Sanity. And here's an article, for example. And what's nice about Sanity is they have this user-friendly interface for anyone to go in and manually add articles. Now, I'm going to talk about how we're going to use AI to basically manage this and create new articles, update it later on. But this is really nice that they have something called Sanity Studio. So you can go in and yeah, all this data is just being served onto our site. And we have all of our data here in the CMS. And I'm going to talk about the costs as well later, but I'm actually on the free plan of Sanity right now. And it seems like that's going to get me really far. If I do need to upgrade, I could do that later on, but just helpful to know that the free plan is really, really nice. Now, you could use something like Supabase as well to serve this content, but you're not going to have this easy to use interface for kind of going in and editing your CMS if you want, unless you build that. And from my research, Sanity is just more purpose built for this type of content. So after that, we have all of this data. We have connections to APIs. We have the pages that we know we need to make. And then after that, you just ask Codex to scaffold the custom site. So literally just prompt that. The initial commit was, you see, a few days ago, 4 days ago, but I finished it a couple days ago. I did it with Next.js. So I'm just going to type this down the bottom. Next.js was the framework that I had it build the site in, and it created all the pages. And what you can do, actually, this is a really nice hack with Codex, is if you're copying over a site, be like, please use app browser. And this is basically an in-app browser that Codex can use to review the site. And then I put in no-code MBA. At the time, this was still hosted on my Webflow. I'm going to talk about how to migrate that over later in the video. But please use browser to review this site and make sure the design matches exactly. Okay, so basically, a prompt as simple as that can be really helpful. The other thing that's really helpful is saying, please create a style guide so we don't repeat ourselves with styles and can easily update styles later. This is really helpful to make sure that we're using a consistent style guide. And this is going to make it easy so that in the future, if I ever want to change the font, if I ever want to change the colors, it's going to be super easy to do that. And it also just keeps things consistent. So building out the actual site did take some time. And this is where I'm going to show you a hack here in Codex that I use all the time. If you go up to the top and you click toggle bottom panel, you can press this plus button and go to terminal. And then I also have a Claude Code subscription. Now you can use Claude Code and Codex in the same app. You just have to set up Claude Code in the terminal down here. And I use Claude Code all the time for design things because I still find the Claude models to be a lot better than Codex for design. So I could say, improve the hero design, however I want it to be. And I just found the results to be a lot better. Now, this did definitely take some back and forth to make sure that it's looking the way that I wanted it to look. And it's just going to take some trial and error. Definitely don't be shy with having it use the @ browser to browse the work it's doing, especially if you want to just pixel for pixel go over from your current Webflow site. You can use that browser tool and it's going to be really helpful in having it do that. You can also have Claude do that there's a Chrome plugin as well for it to browse the web. I actually started kind of with that pixel for pixel copying from my own site, and then I tried to improve it a little bit as I was going on. And then as like a next step, what I'm going to do is improve things even further. One of the benefits I'm already seeing from my site is I have more strategically placed the email capture forms. There's a pop-up that'll show up as well for the daily AI newsletter. And I'm already seeing significant improvement on the number of email subscribers I'm getting from the new website. So that alone has made this whole process worthwhile. Now, this is just my marketing website. Once people sign up for No Code MBA, they actually go to a new domain, app.nocodemba. That is built on Bubble. Now, one day maybe I will rebuild this as well, but everything works well on Bubble, so I don't feel the need right now to migrate that as well. So this I didn't make any changes to. So this is really easy. All you have to do is click select plan, and that just goes to a different domain. So step 8 was we prepped for SEO and cutover. Now, I did a lot of prompting to make sure that the site was ready for turning it over and migrating fully the domain to the new site. And I really focused a lot on making sure that SEO would not be hurt. So there's a checklist of things that I went over to make sure that everything was good to go. So again, we crawled the Webflow site first. So we had the source of truth. We built URL parity auditing. So Codex basically created a tool to compare the Webflow URLs versus our new URLs. So we saw, okay, 0 unmatched Webflow URLs. So we were good there. We kept the canonical domain consistent. So HTTPS was used in sitemap, robots, structured data, etc. So just, again, if any of this is confusing, just pause the video, ask your Codex, hey, are we doing this? And it will know what you're talking about. We added permanent redirects, including legacy paths. So any pages that we're no longer using, we just added redirects. It's best to do that so that nothing goes into a 404 in case it's showing up on Google. There were certain pages like Webflow clonables that I'm not using anymore. So we just redirected that. We generated a dynamic sitemap covering static pages and the CMS back content. So that's super important. This is going to help Google index your site. We added robots support. We added richer page metadata. We added JSON LD structured data helpers, and we added default share access. Okay, so these are the things that we did. Once I went through all these things, I was confident that everything was looking good. I was ready to actually deploy it. So I'm going to talk about how I deployed it, and then I'm going to talk about some of the cleanup that I did in Sanity in the CMS to make sure that everything was working properly. And what's really nice is because the API keys are connected in Codex, we can just manage Sanity basically from our Codex editor. So I used Vercel to deploy the site. Now, something that I didn't mention was the entire time I'm building it here, and if you've watched any of our other videos, you would know this. Be sure to check out our channel and watch some other videos about how to build with Codex, but we are connected to GitHub. Again, if you have any questions about that, ask Codex, how do I connect this repo to GitHub? So you want to sync it to GitHub, make sure you have a GitHub account. So we're basically committing to GitHub as we go. So we have our cloud repo. In Vercel, it's as simple as connecting your GitHub account to Vercel. Literally, it's an integration. You just log in through Vercel. From there, every time you commit to GitHub, it's going to build a new deployment on Vercel, and you're going to have a live version of your site, but it's not going to be on your domain yet. So in Vercel, you just need to go to your domains page. And then here you can see I have nocode.mba set up. So for you, all you have to do is add existing, add your domain. And then from there, just follow the instructions. It's going to give you basically specific DNS settings to set up. You're going to have to remove your Webflow ones in wherever you purchased your domain, update it to Vercel. And actually for me, it was like instant. It immediately switched over and started working correctly. So here's the honest take. This is something that took a lot longer than I expected, was the full Sanity migration. The reason for this was when it migrated everything over, there were a couple challenges. First, there was an article field. It created another field called like article HTML. The reason for that is because I have some HTML things in my articles. Some of them have more than others. This one, for example, has a YouTube embed. And when I first published the site, the HTML wasn't rendering correctly using the article field. So that took quite a lot of time, I would say, to make sure that everything was showing up correctly in the article field that we have here inside of Sanity. I think that overall it's worth it if you want to have a website that's a lot faster, that like, look at it, it's just like instant to click these things, click these pages. And I think that's just like a huge benefit. If you want the ability to fully edit and manage your site from Codex, you feel comfortable with that, it's worth it for that reason. One other thing, so the way that our CMS is connecting to our actual site here is through the API keys. So in Vercel, you just click environment variables and that same environment variable Sanity that we had locally, so that we would be able to test it locally, you just add that to your environment variables in Vercel. Again, ask Codex if you have any questions about that, but it's as simple as that to make sure that the CMS is synced and working correctly on our live site. So let's talk about the pricing comparison. So I was paying before $25 a month for the Webflow CMS. Now that could go up depending on how much bandwidth you need, but let's say it's $25 a month for the basic CMS. And that was really the only cost here. So monthly is actually a lot more, $39 a month. So whether you're doing monthly or yearly can impact it pretty significantly, but somewhere between $25 and $39 a month, unless you need more bandwidth. But that's basically the cost to host it on Webflow. You're probably wondering, how much does this new site cost me to host? So of course, I did spend, I have the $100 plan on Codex, so I spent that to build it, but that's obviously not an ongoing cost. Then on Vercel, I am on the Pro plan. Actually, I have a lot of sites. I think you might actually be able to run this for free if you don't have a lot of traffic, but let's say you're going to spend $20 a month on your Pro plan. So that's basically your hosting through Vercel. And then for Sanity, I'm again on the free plan right now, which gives you quite a lot. If you do need to upgrade to the $15 a month plan, that's going to give you more. That's $15 a month. So, 15 plus 20, 30. So I would say the monthly costs could be lower if you have really low usage, could be literally free, or it could be about the same price as Webflow. So in terms of price savings, you might save a little bit potentially, or basically pay approximately the same amount. So from a price comparison standpoint, that's helpful to know. Now, in terms of upkeep, I would expect that I could just leave this site as it is. It should just continue working. There shouldn't be any issues, just like Webflow. Now, it's possible that in the future, I'll need to make some upgrades in case certain packages go out of date or something like that. I don't expect Codex to have any trouble with that if there are any issues. But that is something to know. You are now in charge of managing your own site. It took me a few days of work to do this, so it really wasn't that long. But if your site is even more complicated, it might be more of a concern for you. Now, SEO is an important part of our business. We do get quite a lot of clicks every day, but it's not like we get millions of clicks a month. Of course, do your own research to make sure that this is the right decision for you. and you're willing to take a little bit of a risk with SEO. Now, I tried to explain all of the things that I did to mitigate that risk as much as possible so that our SEO is not going to get hurt. But anytime you make changes to your site, there is always that risk. So you want to be careful about that and do your own research. So those are kind of the things that you want to keep in mind. If you enjoyed this video, click the link in the description. You definitely are going to want to subscribe to our 2-minute brief for AI builders. I read it every morning. I think it's awesome. Here's the one from this morning that's talking about how OpenAI has a new memory system. Replit shipped a Shopify store builder. Cursor upgraded their canvas. There's a new update to Supabase. So these are just the updates that I find really helpful. I built it for myself. And if you click the link in the description, you can subscribe for free. Let me know if you have any questions. If you're thinking about doing this yourself, I'll do my best to address any questions or concerns you have about this type of migration in the comments. If you've watched until the end of the video here and you think this is cool, but you don't want to do it yourself, but you do want to migrate a site off Webflow, I'm going to take on a limited number of clients to actually do this work for you. So send me an email, seth@nocode.mba, and let me know your situation, and I'll get back to you and let you know if it is a fit. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to get more free content like this. I hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.